Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah
You're watching Harmony and Diversity. Norm Currie is my name, and today we're speaking with Helen Alcock, who is the CEO of Agape Encounter. Thanks for coming in, Helen.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
The Agape Encounter, in their description on their website, puts great emphasis on unconditional love, and it says something to this effect. Agape Encounter was the name given to this organisation, as agape is a Greek word meaning unconditional love, and then goes on to emphasise unconditional love and truth. In our next program, I'd like to speak about Agape Encounter, but could we just explore what brings and brought Helen Alcock to this point? What does your spiritual life look like from, if you like, from when you're just a little kid? Trace it through.
It's interesting you asked me about that, because I do remember a time when I made my first communion.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being very sincere about it, and it was a moment of encounter for me with unconditional love. I felt very special. And then it was many, many years later on, I don't know, maybe into my 30s, I think I was a Sunday Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
That was about it. But then I discovered that I was being triggered off by certain situations in life and became quite emotional at times, and I'm thinking, what is going on with me? Why do I feel like I feel? Got down on my knees in a private room and said, God, I don't even know if you're there or you exist. Right now you feel like you're a million miles away and there's a huge brick wall between us if you do exist. And I'm on my knees saying, if you are there, I need some help to find out how to deal with these feelings I have and emotions. And the journey began.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from then on, I think it took 2 years for me to trust going to a CCR meeting, Catholic Charismatic Renewal meeting. Got involved there, got very deeply involved there, became a prayer group leader, got involved with the healing ministry and taught at a national level, one occasion in Canberra and other occasions. And then I felt called, I was involved with my own parish and involved in small Christian communities. Felt then very drawn as a result of an experience I had to very slowly and gently put everything down. I was just in a garden, just sitting in a grassed field, away with my husband Bruce, and I actually felt a presence go past me and ever so gently say, put everything down. That's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I came aside. 6 months later, Agape Encounter was formed. Not because I wanted to do it, because people were coming to us, seeking peace and presence and healing, and I had such a heart for all people from all backgrounds, not just Catholics, whether they had faith or no faith.
We could just take you back to, say, when you was 15 or 16. What did your faith structure look like then compared to after that encounter?
I used to go to Mass on a Sunday. I don't think I really thought much about God or even if he existed. He certainly wasn't in my everyday life. Now, where I am now, it's to me the foundation and source of everything. I have had so many breakdowns and breakthroughs and changes and profound changes in my life that I know now where the source of my peace is and where I can get clarity and where I can get insight. And so I spend time every day, first thing in the morning. I wake up and I say, well, thanks for another day. You're there and I'm here and you're within me. Just guide me today. And I go and have a quiet time in a chapel and stay on and spend some time meditating. And when I don't do that, I start to get really sidetracked and my life doesn't flow. So that's the difference now. It's sort of like the foundation, it's the source.
So it's all more purposeful.
And personal.
Yes.
Because really, I go back to my Creator, who I know now is within me and all around me, is my best friend and my greatest friend. And so because of the massive journey I've had, well, I feel it's been massive, from going to such emotional state to such great peace time and time and time again, and knowing now how to sort that. Whereas before I didn't have a clue how to deal with feelings of anger or resentment, etc., and come to that place of peace. I just know I go back and have this conversation all the time. Or if I'm getting, someone's chatting and I'm not sure about it or whatever else, I'll be just in my mind saying, what do you reckon? So I'll be all the time chatting and trying to practice the presence of being just with my divine friend every moment, every day. Do I do that? Not always.
Where does the things like the Eucharist fit in? Like taking it back to your 16 again.
Yeah.
What's been the transition in your relationship with the Eucharist over that period?
Well, I think the thing is I saw it from a head level at 16. Now it's from a heart level. Now I have a relationship with the sense of what that's really all about, to remind me, as well as knowing the presence of the one who really loved me enough to die for me is there. And I get touched by that experience of being at Mass in the morning is meaningful. The words are meaningful. I see them, those words in action. I see people going from dark to light. I did in my own life. So those words have now become alive. And the Eucharist for me is a reminder of the one who is willing to die for me, even though I've stuffed up many times.
So we know where the word agape comes from, what it means, but obviously encounter has a rich meaning for you as well, because what you're describing is a true encounter with the divine.
Absolutely.
On a day-to-day basis. Going back once again and to say, okay, 16, right through that period, early marriage, children, how much did your faith thread through that?
It's interesting you say that, because what comes back to me straight away is one of my favourite song is Amazing Grace. And I know that it's by grace, that I am where I am, that our family is where it is, that it all gets better, and when it's not right, we know how to move through it constructively. I know that, and I know it's a grace. I know how much I was in control, I thought. You know, and I had to hit many brick walls with my family, my children, and go into places where, as they were growing up, I really did not have a clue how to manage it, how to be. I didn't know where they were in their teenage years at times, and that's when I'd go back on my knees and say, help.
Thanks, Helen. And we'll need some help because we're out of time for this segment. We'll be back. Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. Norm Currie is my name. And we're speaking with Helen Alcock, CEO, Agape Encounter. Helen, we were talking about family before. Could you give some examples of the sort of transition experiences that you had in that time with wife, husband, children?
I think from the moment I actually sort of knelt down and said, listen, I need help if you do exist, God. It's like all hell was let loose in my family. It seemed like that. I'm thinking, well, wow, is this what happens when you ask for help? But in fact, now on reflection, I realise that that was all part of the process of getting to know the power of my Creator when I was powerless. And one example is one of my daughters became very ill to the point of almost a point of death. And over a 3-year period, I think I went around in circles, looking at naturopaths, doctors, professors, children's hospitals, and she just got thinner and thinner and got more allergies, stopped breathing through the night with asthma. And I remember one particular day kneeling before the cross because I related to someone who'd suffered. And I think I thought I'd given her up or passed her over or whatever terminology people relate to. That's what but I hadn't, because I was still in control, trying to figure it out and find a solution. Well, I remember this one particular day, I was exhausted. I'd been everywhere, done anything. And I thought, I cannot put this through any other diets, medication, whatever. I knelt down at a cross and I said, I surrender her. And even if you want to take an hour, I'm willing to surrender her to you. Your will be done. I can't fight this. And of course, I realised I was fighting the fear of death.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment I said that, going from an absolute place of fear and terror and tension, this peace literally came upon my mind and my heart and my spirit, so much so I was almost immobilised, just cocooned in this place of presence and peace. And I got an image in my mind of my daughter Paige dancing in the daisies, and I could see this image. It was like a prophecy, I guess, a prophetic thing. And she was waving at me, and they were big, tall daisies, and she said, "Mummy, I'm okay, I'm okay." And again, I also got the instructions to not talk about her illness. I came out of this place. I didn't know what was going to happen. And the reality was she was still really sick with oxygen under the bed, but I felt at peace. And I didn't know what the next steps were. Someone invited me to see another doctor. I reluctantly went along, reluctantly put her on cortisone, and she became a personal trainer within about 6 years, is thriving with health and has very few allergies now, is married with 2 beautiful children. That was a profound moment for me, a profound one. And is there another one, or would you want me to tell you another one? Or?
Yes, tell us another one, because that one is a fascinating demonstration of surrender. Yes. What
even
else
into death. So I faced,
yeah, absolutely.
I faced my worst fear and encountered peace. The second one was, again, part of this whole journey, which was such a trial for us, because I would have died instead of her.
Yes.
To help her. I would have done anything. And I can remember my husband was working very long hours to support us all, of course, and doing his best. So he was stretched, often 6 days a week. And one day he came home, and of course he came home to me running around like a chook with my head cut off, you know, tired from being up in the middle of the night, etc. And he said, "I don't know that I can cope." And he was just sharing with me. But at that moment I personalised it. So it's not about him, it's about me. At that moment, the thoughts that went through my head were, "You don't think you can cope? Wow." And all of this anger and rage literally from within me was, I could feel it literally coming up through me. But I had the gift of awareness. I actually had asked a few years prior, "Can you please stop me? Can you send my angel, tap me on the shoulder, make me aware before I react?" And at that moment, I had that moment of being aware, if I speak, molten lava is going to destroy my husband out of what I perceived, what I was thinking. So I said to my helper, "Take over," because I knew the results would be shocking. It would be devastating. I knew we wouldn't, you know, it could go on. I said, "Take over," and literally a miracle happened for me. I went from rage, anger, murder probably in my heart to utter peace. And next thing, the thing that came out of my mouth that I never thought about, that's why I think, well, there's someone behind this. I said, "You must be really struggling." And I was calm as a cucumber. I'm thinking, what happened then?
Yes.
I was like this, and within an instance of saying take over, I became empathetic with my husband, understanding, all the anger disappeared. We walked down the beach. I listened to his struggles. We went to Mass. He wasn't a Catholic then. He then now joins me in the faith. We had a beautiful evening, and next morning I went down on my knees and said, "Thank you for saving me from myself." And I didn't understand what had happened to all those feelings and emotions. I didn't understand how I was supposed to resolve that. There was just peace there. 6 months later, I understood what happened.
Yes, yes. So this is actually from your description, is God moving in your life. It's
Absolutely. Wisdom, unconditional love, truth. Because on reflection, I see that that was my perspective, and my husband meant absolutely nothing by that. And I was coming from my own interpretation, my own exhaustion, and misinterpreting. And I believe he took over and stepped in and stopped a disaster. And how many marriages, relationships suffer that because we react.
That's right. Yes. Thank you for that, Helen. And we'll have to react because time is closing in on us. We'll be back.
Mani Allah. Alleluia. Mani Allah.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony in Diversity. Norm Currie is my name, and we're speaking with Helen Alcock. Helen, you've just described what is an intensely spiritual interface with your perspective of God. How do you translate that into your interface with people from other faiths or of no faith? Has that had an influence on that at all?
Enormously. Because I had an experience with my daughter's ex-boyfriend. They're not long broken up. I knew that he had been struggling, and I had a real heart for him. So again I asked, I said, Wisdom, if you want him to come to me, because I knew how perhaps I could help him come to a place of peace, because he was really quite upset. But I said, you sort it. So he rang me. I didn't ring him, and he came along, listened to him over a cup of tea, and then I was aware that perhaps I could help him a little more. I had no idea of his faith background, if he had any faith. I asked him that, and he said, no, I was born a Christian but never been involved in religion at all. I said, and this was the thing that really helped me enormously, it was the beginning of realising that anyone from any background, from any faith, could encounter unconditional love and truth. And I said, what do you believe in? Do you believe in truth, love, wisdom? He said, no, I believe in truth. I said, well, you know where I come from, but I said, I can actually invite the Spirit of Truth to guide you and help you become present to how you're feeling as a result of what's happened. And if there's anything that's being triggered off from your past, if it's appropriate, that will come up effortlessly and you can encounter the Spirit of Truth. He went back to a place in his memory that was dark, obviously of trauma. It seemed to me at that time he felt alone, frightened, terrified, frozen, and I invited the Spirit of Truth to come and reveal his presence, his light, whatever was appropriate for him. And he said, I can see a light, and then in a very short period of time, as I waited, he said, now I sense I'm being held in a hand. And I said, so what is it like for you to be held in that hand? He said, instead of feeling frightened and terrified, I feel safe and secure and loved. And I said to him, do you want to ask whose hand that is? Because I never tell anyone anything. I just ask the question and wait for them to be revealed. And his eyes shot open. And he said to me, and they were really wide, and he said his name's Jesus. Now in that particular case, and so he had no relationship with Jesus, and I'm saying other people have just light and presence and experience of the, and that's about it for them really, and that's how they relate. So I said, so tell me, how do you feel now as a result of where you were and where you are now? And he said, I've used drugs. He said, this is better than drugs. This is amazing. How I feel now is against how I felt. So we translated that to all the workshops because our organisation is open to all people seeking truth, love, clarity, peace, presence. Doesn't matter what their background. We don't know what their background is. We don't know what they've done. We don't know what's happened to them. But we create a safe space, as many people have commented, for people to come, and we invite them to relate to what they relate to, whether it be the Spirit of Truth, love, wisdom, Jesus, God. They'll take on the language that relates to them. For us, it's one and the same.
Yes. Yeah.
And they do. And it seems to get over that hurdle where they can then experience, under their guidance of wisdom, where they're at as a result of their circumstances, and also encounter peace.
So that was someone who had a basic Christian background. Have you encountered, say, people from Islam or Buddhism or anything like that? You've struck with
To
them?
be honest with you, I don't know where they come from. But we have had one gentleman come who has said his background was very much from an Islamic background, but then he himself had an encounter with God and then came into the Christian faith. So we don't proclaim a faith.
No.
We don't proclaim a particular church or denomination, although I am where I am. We're about, for them, discovering it for themselves, wherever they come, and they do. As I said, many of them, that gentleman I'm just talking about now, I'll call his name Joe. Joe was just baptised. He'd never been to a church, had no faith whatsoever. So it's for everybody who's been either hurt in the church or has no faith. But we never actually often find out where they come from.
No, that. They don't reveal that. That's not the central issue.
The central issue is about them encountering truth, peace, presence and power, and that they're not alone. And that we often ask them at the end of the workshop to say, how were you when you arrived as a result of your life? What happened and how are you now? The change for a lot of people is profound. They arrive stressed, out of their brain, lost, and then they come into a place of encountering just a presence or a light. First of all, they encounter their own feelings, because most people, we've found, don't know how to own and be present to their own feelings, their negative feelings. They run from them. In this place we invite love, unconditional love, to reveal them. And in that place it just comes up and they become the observer of it. It's a meditation. And we say, just hold that, and then the belief in that about your worth and value. So it's gentle.
These people who benefit from these encounters, do you have any feedback examples at all?
Just a brief one, but a profound one. Apart from the forms we get back, a gentleman came, had never seen him before, had a real insight and a breakthrough, broke down and broke through, as we call it, had an encounter, 6 weeks later came back. I hardly recognised him physically, he looked so different. He said, I had to come back and tell you, I was on a bottle of whiskey a day, and he said, I have not even looked at it, sniffed it or smelt it, I haven't even had the desire.
That's a great example. Thank you very much, Helen. Would you be happy to come back next week and we can speak more about Agape?
I'd be delighted.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching Harmony in Diversity, and we'll see you next week.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu